wet day in October today. We've caught the tail end of Storm Babbitt here in the West Midlands, and I've managed to find a gap in the day where it's not raining. For this video and the next few, I'll be focusing on overwintering and preparing the garden for the season that's fast approaching. We've already felt the dip in temperatures, and it's about time now that I got started on things. So you'll see here a selection of plants that need my attention. A few I'll be bringing in as house plants, some others I'll be dry storing. Let's have a closer look at what we've got in here then. So I've got some Colocasia white lava first of all, which has done well in this pot. I'll be bringing this in as a house plant. I'll change the medium that it's in. I'll put it in fresh compost. Don't want to bring any worms or slugs or anything inside. And as I begin to shake some of the soil off this, you can see it's got two growth points there on the side as well. Now I'm not too worried about keeping all these roots. They won't be needed in the small pot that I'll be keeping it ticking over in. Now I know, Mum, that you're out there and you're thinking, Claude, why haven't you got your gloves on? Sorry, Mum. Now isn't that just a thing of beauty? So I'll get that planted in there. A bit more compost in there to compact that in. And there it is, ready for the conservatory. I've also got the Colocasia esculenta, which has done well for me also in a pot, but I'll be dry storing that one. So 2 Colocasia, but I'll be treating them differently and seeing how they both fare. I'll be dry storing my bulbs and culms in vermiculite in cardboard boxes. And this medium will keep them nice and dry over the winter. Colocasia esculenta, you're up. Now it always feels very brutal indeed cutting large leaves off, especially when they look as pretty as the ones on here, but alas, it's time to say goodnight, so let's go. And just like the white lava, it's quite amazing to see the large and complex root system that it's developed in such a short time over the summer. Now here's the brain of this thing, the original culm or bulb. You can see some additional growth points there as well, which is great. That's the bit that I want to keep, and that's the bit that I'm going to dry store. So the roots can go. I'll get those off now. So now I'm just going to give this a bit of a wash, and I'll leave it out to dry a while before I stick it into the vermiculite. To the left, I've got a canna there, a couple of them, looking a little worse for wear. This one looks like it wants to flower again, but I'll be dry storing those as well. I'll follow the same process with my canna. I'll cut the top growth off, I'll get the bulbs out, cut the roots off, get them cleaned up. As you can see, this bulb is still giving here in late October. Just wanted to show you what these look like out of the pot. They were pretty much root bound in there. Hello. Let's get you somewhere else, little fella. And this is what we're left with. Here are those 2 canna with the roots chopped down. I can probably take them down a bit more. And most of the soil washed off. I will divide these, but not until the spring. I'll leave these now to dry before they go away into their boxes for the winter. So I've got the Monstera as well, which I only bring out for the summer. This will be going back inside as a house plant. I'll repot it again in some fresh compost. I've taken off some of the more damaged leaves, replaced the compost, mixed it with a little bit of perlite, and that should now be all right as a house plant. Now we do. I've got some Ipomoea batatas for propagating as well. I want to see how that gets on inside. I'll propagate that in water. I have more of it here around my Charlie boy, and I love how it's framed, that plant. I have 2 sections there. So what I'm doing now is cutting the bottom leaves off. I'll cut them off according to how much of this I'm going to keep in the water. I think that should do it. So I now have insurance plants for next year. I've also got the Colocasia Illustris here, which has not grown to plan, shall we say. Now I was expecting 2 or 3 large Illustris leaves like the esculenta and white lava, but instead we seem to have grown several with really small leaves. So I've taken some of the soil off, and I'm starting to think it might be better to keep all of these together. So now that the soil's off and I can get a good look at this, I don't think I am going to separate them. I think I'm going to keep them together and just keep it ticking over in a pot in the house and hope for the best. This already hasn't grown as I expected it to, so it's turning into a bit of an experiment anyway. So I'll cut those roots down and get that into a pot and see how that does as a whole house plant. Got a ladder fern here, Nephroiepsis Cordifolia, I believe. Now this one will do okay in a cool conservatory, but it's not going to do well in frost, so that will come in. I'll also repot that as well, as that pot's looking a bit small. So here's that Mangave that I mentioned. Originally £8 from Morrison's. I like to mention the cost sometimes, and the fact that they are from supermarkets. You can do quite well in the UK buying plants from supermarkets. I'll take off some of the damaged leaves, and I'll also separate out some of these lovely pups that are on the side. I hope to get about 3 or 4 plants from this. So this is how it looks with the soil off, and it'll be much easier to see where to divide these. And voila, 4 extra plants. So rain has stopped play. I'm pretty wet now, but I've managed to get quite a bit done.